this is great. Los Angeles, New Delhi, talking to my good friend and partner, Pratik. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I don't get to see your face always on a Sunday, but yeah, you made my Sunday better. Thank you.
And a special happy Mother's Day to your mom. Please let her know.
Thank you. Thank you. Same wishes back to you and all the women around the world who are amazing. So happy Mother's Day to all moms.
Ditto. I'm with you. So why don't we start off by you just telling everybody who you are and just briefly about yourself.
Thanks. Yeah. So who I am? Well, I'm Pratik, and just giving a background of me professionally. So I'm trying to create what we all call, even at Fifth Element Group, the fifth industrial revolution, where you use technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, whether it can be blockchain or artificial intelligence or Internet of Things or 3D printing, and bend that focus back towards humanity. And when you see the COVID-19 crisis and this pandemic, it actually is going to expedite the progress from the fourth industrial revolution to the fifth industrial revolution. So that's what I've been trying to do in the past decade. Well, I started my journey when I was 16. I did not know what fifth industrial revolution is. I did not know what United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were. But what I knew is always wanted to found or run purpose-driven ventures and actually help create a better society. So that's what I've been doing. I've ended up creating 5 to 6 companies since then, and all of them have been in the fifth industrial revolution space. And trying to help achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
So you live in New Delhi. Are you from New Delhi?
Yeah, I'm born brought up in Delhi. Yes.
Awesome. So, everybody talks about the why, and Simon Sinek made it famous, actually. I'd love you to share your why, and specifically tell me why you do what you do.
Oh, okay. So I have a personal story to this. By the way, as I was telling you, I started my journey when I was 16 and I was in high school, and I saw that I realized basically that was an year, that 1 year was a realization because of a lot of events that happened to me. When I was going to school, I actually saw so many people, so many Indians around me, kids like me in poverty. I saw so many kids like me do not have access to quality education like I did. So many kids not having access to clean water, which I did. So, that made me felt very privileged. And it also gave me a sense of the kind of models that I want to create. Like, I want to solve these problems of India, and then obviously it went on globally. They're all global problems, but being India specific, I really wanted to solve these problems when I was 16. So that's how my journey began, because of these incidents. And I started my first startup in the education space, where I formed an education consultancy company and ran it for 5 years before it got acquired. And I basically was, started with education just because I really thought that I came from, again, a very privileged environment, having gone to good schools. But in fact, most of my education was free because I got scholarships, but so many kids around me did not have access to opportunities like I did. And, this one thing which I always tell to everybody I speak to, I realized that, talent is equally distributed, but opportunities are not. So, so I realized that I was very lucky to have those opportunities coming my way, but so many people don't have access to those. And the only way to give them access is through entrepreneurship and build companies where those and lift those people. And by the way, when I talk about social entrepreneurship, I did not come from a very rich and wealthy environment where I could do philanthropy. But what I wanted to do is actually I wanted to run companies which are profitable, which are making money, but which also lift people.
Yeah, it's a good story. I obviously have heard it before, but I'm glad you shared it with everybody, because it's special, and the way you describe it really makes a difference. It's taken literally decades for everyone to recognize that aligning a corporate brand or a family office brand with social impact is really vital, number one, to getting the best talent to come there, but it's also really good for business, as we know. You've been deeply engaged, as you just talked a little bit about, in entrepreneurship, in corporate growth, and social impact. So this is kind of a little bit of a pushy question, but with that said, why do you have the passion, and what makes you one of the leaders who care?
Oh, so okay. The passion again stems from the point that I always wanted to run purpose-driven ventures, and that always because the way I was raised, I was born in a very loving family. So it also comes down from my family, the way I was born and raised, and most of the friends around me, you know, the way I was raised is really very amazing. I have had the honor of having grown up with such amazing people, and you know, I call them superhumans. Like there's just beautiful people, beautiful souls. And when you actually you know, be around such people, that actually gets into you. So I've always been very kind, and I always wanted to help the society grow, but also make money on the side. So you know, and then I figured out as I was growing up, you know, having worked with a lot of Fortune 100 brands. I worked with a brand called RB, a company called RB, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, a Fortune 500 company. Then I worked with a company called Tata's. I worked with them for 2.5 years in the leadership program. And when I did that, I realized that there's you know, brands spend about $1 to $2 trillion. I'm just talking about Fortune 500 companies just on marketing. So I always wanted to create social impact. If we can link those dollars to social impact, oh my God, that could be, you know, a win-win-win for everybody. So the people would benefit because we lift people. You know, even I as a social entrepreneur benefit because I end up making money and I end up creating impact. So it's like a combination of both I wanted to do. The Fortune 100 brands benefit because they get an amplified brand warmth that we say at Fifth Element Group. And you know, that's why I love what we do at Fifth Element Group. And I think when I met Ed a couple of years back, I was really amazed by what he had done in his corporate career. So it was just an alignment of values that all of us came together. And then I met you after 6 months, and then you were doing such incredible stuff. You've done such incredible stuff in your life in the same space. So I also, you know, in the last decade, there have been so many people who've been doing amazing stuff, but I've had, you know, it's hard to actually find people who really want to create social impact, and they're doing it and also making money. So, you know, that intersection, because a lot of people want to do it, but it's not so easy, you know, to find that sweet spot. I think that takes time, and it's as you say, you know, trust the process. It's not easy. So if you can trust the process and kind of create those kind of models, it really works. And we have actually demonstrated that they work. Like we took RB to Davos this year. So that actually, you know, it shows that Fortune 500 brands have started to trust us. But, you know, like we worked so hard for all the viewers. It's never easy. We worked so hard when we started for Near to actually get where we are. So you know, to get all of that going, it's just been a magical experience for me. I would say the last decade has been just magical.
Sounds like an omni-win to me. You know, you talked about family, and you know, I I recently published an article, and I referred to my grandparents, and probably most grandparents say this, but they would always say, and they were from Kiev way back when, and they said, as long as we have our health, that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
It was always about having your health first. And if you consider all the change, the speed of the technology changes, you look at, like you mentioned, COVID-19, dramatically changing social and economic situations. There's kind of been, people have almost been a little bit of awakened with more time to think about what's important, like our grandparents said. With that in mind, how do you view the future of work, the future of doing business in the very short term and a little bit longer?
Okay, so one thing which is kind of so I would say, you know, COVID-19 actually I think has brought a lot of opportunities to us as the world. I don't know if you know, but you know, WhatsApp and Skype and all these companies were created just around the recession which came in 2008, 2009. So because of this recession, obviously we are going to have recession because of COVID-19. A lot of startups are facing money crunch. A lot of people are going to lose jobs, no doubt about it. But it's going to spur a lot of amazing startups. And this time, I think, you know, even in the short run, most of the startups which are going to succeed are going to be in the social impact space, which is really amazing because I think the earth is teaching us that, you know, if you don't respect me, if you don't respect us, we don't respect you either. So people are now starting to realize that it's not just profits. Even people who are capitalists and I speak to so many of those, they're realizing that only considering profits as your main purpose isn't going to get you anywhere. So it has to be a combination of profits and purpose. And I think with COVID-19, I mean, we've been doing it at Fifth Avenue for a long time now, but I'm talking about most of the other people. In fact, a lot of my friends who are working with Fortune 500 companies who've heavily been centered on profits, and I'm talking about leaders of these companies, now they realize that profits and purpose have to go hand in hand, and that is going to spur a lot of initiatives which are going to be beneficial to the world, which are going to solve problems of the world, which include water or sanitation or hunger or poverty or climate, etc., but also going to give you profits. So I think number one, when you talk about what we're going to see Africa with, people are going to open up. There's going to be a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of startups coming our way, which are going to solve social problems. Number one. Number two, Fortune 500 brands are much aware than they were ever before. So they are going to, all their initiatives are now going to focus more on even lifting people, okay, and not just profit. So profit and purpose, you're going to see that intersection, that sweet spot being major focus of all the Fortune 500 brands. The third, we're going to see an online boom, which you've already seen. A lot of people, I mean, look, the way we are chatting, it's online, and I don't think any problem here. So we're running our business, and business as usual. COVID is going to help become business as usual be the online thing. So most of the Google just made an announcement saying for the next 1 year you can do work from home. Facebook did it too. You will see a lot of other brands, other companies doing it as well. So I think online is going to be the new thing. By the way, let me tell you another thing. This is going to also help save a lot of money which companies spent on rents. Nothing against real estate, by the way, but if you can get stuff done, at home, you don't need to go to an office. And again, now this was the very big point, and I'm just talking, because of the amazing series that you started, Mark, is Leaders Who Care. It is going to spur more leaders who care. There are going to be more leaders who care who are going to come to the table now to solve problems. And I'll tell you another beautiful thing, which I think is going to happen. Companies, the executives are going to start trusting their employees more. So if you are not seeing your employee physically, you have to trust him or her that he will or she will get stuff done, even despite they're at home. So they're not going to be chilling or playing games, but actually going to be working, right? So I think this is a huge shift. Like, people are going to impose more trust in the employees. And I think most of the best companies who we have seen are like actually become unicorns, have been built by leaders who trusted their employees. So you're going to see more trust.
Yeah, you bring up a whole bunch of good points, and I was just interviewing another really smart guy who's talking about trusting. We compared a lot of things to sports in that interview, and he talked about if you trust your player to go out there and on the field or on the ice or whatever and do the job, that player is going to love the coach. And it's the same with the boss. They want to be trusted to do a great thing and have the confidence. The other thing that I found interesting is when you talk about more leaders will care. This conversation came up too, where there's a lot of leaders who really wanted to care, but they didn't have time between the quarterly financial results always having to come out and the shareholder pressure. It's almost like they would have loved to do more, but they didn't have time to care about it. So they say, oh, just give a $10,000 donation. I don't have time to worry about it. Don't you think that's going to have an impact too?
Huge. So that's what I said, So coming from when I was 16, I always used to think, I want to create a lot of social impact, and how do I do it? So there were I'm not a Bill Gates, so I don't have so much money to actually start a philanthropic thing. And a lot of young people, by the way, do not get into social impact careers. In fact, I was just chatting with an amazing organization. I was addressing their leaders yesterday on Saturday. It's called 1 Million for 1 Billion. It's been run by a fellow at UC Berkeley. So I was chatting with these young leaders. The biggest question that came to me, they're all in their late 10s. So they're about 18 to 24-year-old people, young people. And they said, we don't want to get into social impact careers because we are apprehensive that it's only done by wealthy people. That myth is going to be busted now. To your point, it's going to just go away. So social entrepreneurship, where you say you can actually make profits by doing good. Right? So I think this is going to be the new norm, which is going to see a lot of young people also starting startups in this space. So we are going to move away. I'm not saying philanthropy is not going to happen. Obviously, we need a lot of philanthropists,
Right.
but we just don't need those. I mean, if you see the global giving industry, by the way, it's considered to be about $500 billion, and it's estimated to be $1 trillion. Out of that, about $400 billion is given by the ultra high net worth people that we see, including Bill Gates and the Tatas and the Ambanis or Jeff Bezos and stuff. But that $100 billion, that has to go up, and social giving will become a habit. People are starting to realize, in fact, in India, we have so many people, coming up to the table. I'm talking about middle class people. They're donating to do good stuff in the world, right? That is going to go up. More startups, more even companies, the big companies, as I said earlier as well, they now believe much, much more. Boardrooms are going to be open. I mean, board members, stakeholders I'm talking about are now starting to realize more than ever that if you have a good purpose, you will end up making more money. Now, this correlation between money and profits and purpose, is better than ever before.
Well, it's true, and we see it every day, obviously, in what we're doing, and I think SDG 17 is going to apply not only to just company leaders coming together, but even competitors coming together and employees coming together to be engaged, which will always be better for the company and the community. And going to that point, what role do you see current business leaders and upcoming business leaders who care playing to ensure what I find is critical now coming into play too, the financial well-being as well as the physical and mental well-being of their talent? How do you see them addressing that, and how they look at how that's going to impact business, and even more so how it's going to impact community?
I see that now leaders will have more capacity building programs. So capacity building program, not just, so you've seen a lot of, in fact, I'll just give you a small example. When I was with Tata's and working with them, most of the programs that we were asked to do were more on marketing and sales. And, you go to Ivy Leagues, get those degrees where you learn the art of selling. That was the norm. I think it's going to move away from not just that, but to your point, like the program that you do, Leaders Who Care. These will become the go-to programs where people are going to be taught these programs while they're working. And these are going to be taught to you at Ivy League schools. The education is going to completely change. So we don't just need programs that teach you sales and marketing. We actually need you to be humans. Like, you need to be a human first to connect with a human before you pitch or before you do a sale or you get more revenue for your company. So if you just think about your top line and bottom line without being a human, you can never do that, by the way. And the society that we're moving towards now, as I say, we're moving towards the fifth industrial revolution. It is going to be all about empowering the employees of your company. So if you are a young leader, or if you're any leader in your company, you need to empower these people. And by the way, mental well-being is very, very important. And we've seen that. I was in fact reading just a report by the World Economic Forum, which says you might see a lot of mental instability after COVID happening because most of the people losing jobs. So I think leaders need to care for their employees as leaders who care, not just by paying them their salaries, but also making sure that they're stable, right? They're mentally stable, a mentally stable person, and asking them about how their family is, right? Because so many people are going through such tough times. As leaders, it's our responsibility not just to ask people just about how they're doing financially, but also ask them what they're doing as families, right? So if we can do that, I think that's our future. That's what the future looks like to me.
Yeah, it's a great point. I was just at a client of ours, by the name of PaySafe, who's a global company, and one of the senior executives here was showing me around and said, "Hey, Eleanor. Hey, Bill. What's going on with your husband? Hey, Bill, did your wife have the baby yet? What's going on?" He knew what was going on with the family. So it's a great point that you make, and that's an investment in people too. And if you imagine the feeling a person has when the top executive comes and says, "Hey, Eleanor, how's your husband doing? Is your son okay?" And they know you, being human, like you said, that goes miles for that person wanting to perform and be loyal and just make a difference everywhere. And And then I know you'd agree with this, it flows down into the community at large, local, regional, and global, don't you think?
Absolutely. And the biggest example what we have is the STG circle, everyone, right? So just for the viewers, the STG circle is a community of like-minded people who are leaders who care, as Mark calls them. And as we at Fifth Argument says, people who are trying to make the world a better place by also by combining profits and purpose. So, you know, we have, and Mark, I think we're going to see a spur in the growth of those kind of people coming more to the table. More people, you know, would be become a part of these kind of communities where people are actually more loving and caring and want to lift people. So I think conversations, even in the boardroom, there's going to be a big change in conversations after COVID. You're going to see more conversation moving towards being human to just being talking about profits. And I think it's going to happen not just at the regional level. It's going to happen globally. You would not be surprised if, and by the way, this year, World Economic Forum Davos, before the pandemic, Mark and I, both of us were there, and you know that it was all, the theme was about climate change, right? So people have started to talk about it and leaders recognize it. But I think now the next theme of a World Economic Forum or the annual meeting of new champions, and you know, we at Fifth Argument, we go to so many events in a year, and we sponsor so many of them. You would not be surprised if the major focus of those events is going to be around mental health and stability and being more human than just being a money-making machine or a revenue-generating machine.
Well, you'll become, as you know, you become, the money comes by being that, doesn't it? The money comes by being that. And you know, what's great about it is, you know, you remember that line from Tom Hanks with baseball, there's no crying in baseball. Well, now you can cry. Now you can say the words care. Now you can say the words love, and it's okay. It's okay to be human. In fact, it's better than okay. You'll only attract the best people that want to be in a place where you're human. So you're right on, man, on what you're talking about. And a final thing I wanted to ask you is, because you do work with a lot of young people like me. I want to throw that one in there because you always bug me about that. But when you're talking to your kids in the future, or you're talking to the upcoming graduates who, you know, are getting different types of graduations, what's a one or two line piece of advice you tell them as to, like, when they ask you, well, what now? What's next? What am I going to do?
Well, I tell them just one thing. You know, the biggest thing is, do not be afraid of challenges, number one, and always think. So, you know, I like, you know, I would have children after some years, and you know, I want to tell them the world I inherited was, say, whatever it was an X. And you know, when you inherit that, I want to make sure that I can proudly tell them that I have contributed my part and given them a world which is better than what I got. And I tell them, if you can do the same, everything else will follow. Because if you solve complex problems, if you solve any problem that you see around the world, around you, in your local communities, don't worry about money. Money will follow. Don't worry about anything, okay? If you can just be a loving human and be kind and want to solve problems in a kind, beautiful way by treating people as people, like, everything else follows suit and everything else follows its own way. So a lot of young people ask me, you know, how to probably become a successful entrepreneur and with all these accolades, like 30 under 30 and all of that. Like, I get asked like all the time. The only thing I tell them, you don't need to worry about these awards. You don't need to worry about your wealth. You don't need to worry about money. You don't even need to come from a lot of money. Everything will happen, but just be good, just be human, be loving, and treat people with love, and just spread joy around you, right? If you can spread joy around in your room whenever you're talking to people, trust me, you will build relationships. And those relationships, you would not even imagine the kind of capital that they will end up creating, both for you in a human way and in a financial way. So just think of relationships as relationships. And that's all the guidance. And the second thing I tell them, by the way, is don't be bogged down by society pressure. Because when I was growing up, the biggest thing, you know, even if your parents, by the way, tell you to pursue a certain career because they think it's right, you don't need to do that, okay? You just need to do what your heart tells you to do. I mean, my parents they're awesome. They have always supported me. But, you know, sometimes they wanted me to probably be a good engineer, right? And I never thought that I can be a good engineer, so I would not never do justice to that. So I ended up doing marketing because I think I will be good at it. So, you know, if you can, number two, if you can make your passion your job,
Right.
I think you are going to do amazingly well. So just make your passion your job. And the third thing I tell young people, which I've experienced in my whole life, and you would experience it probably more because you're probably older to me, Mark. But but anyways, the
that because he knows that I am. That, and so to everybody, he says that all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you would agree to me, Mark. You say it's trust the process, but I say the same way. It's a different way of me paraphrasing it, saying nothing is impossible. If you've grown up thinking you're inspired by Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Ratan Tata or any of those, you can be the next Bill Gates. You can be the next Elon Musk. Those were people who actually thought they could do it and they did it, right? So the first is believing in yourself and don't care about what society thinks about you. Don't think what people think about you. Just do what your heart tells you to do, and just do it by spreading love. So if you can do, you know, if you can just spread love all around, trust me, everything follows suit.
I love you, man. Very good. Way to go. Thanks for joining Leaders Who Care. You're one of them.
You're the epitome of Leaders Who Care. Thanks for having me.